Ciao e benvenuti! We have already seen the conjugation of regular verbs. Now let's see verbs in more detail. No worries! Verbs do make the highest number of victims among Italian learners, but if you study them, you can survive. We have seen regular verbs in the present form. Once they are conjugated, verbs can be in different ways or form, modo, and then also refer to different tempus, let's say, so present, past, and future. The forms we have seen by now are two: infinitive form, il modo infinito, so cantare, and the indicative form, modo indicativo, in the present simple, io canto. Let's see all of them in general, and then we'll see them in detail as we continue our Italian journey. There are two main groups of forms in Italian: definite and indefinite forms. Definite forms are indicativo, to say something real, something sure; congiuntivo, opinions, doubts, chances, fears, hopes; condizionale, probability and courtesy form, facts that may happen if other things happen before; imperativo, imperative, so to express commands, orders. The indefinite forms are infinito, so it explains the meaning of a verb, the verb as it is at its base; participio, may be used as a verb, adjective, or noun; gerundio, how the action is happening. It can also mean something that is happening in the meanwhile of another action. These are the forms that we have. Each has its own tempus then, but don't worry. To make it clear, we'll analyze them with no hurry, one at a time. Today we start in the modo indicativo, explaining the presente semplice, simple present. It is used when you want to underline that the action is happening in the present time. It translates the English present simple and sometimes also the present continuous. For example, Martina mangia un'arancia, Carlo lavora ogni giorno. It can also be used to refer to an action happening in the future, but certain. L'autobus parte fra 30 minuti. Domani sera vado ad un concerto. Tomorrow evening I'm going to a concert. I use the present here in Italian because it's certain. I've decided long ago. I've got the tickets. I'm definitely going there. So, present simple. Presente semplice. You can also use the present while referring to an action that started in the past, but that it's still going on in the present, like abito qui da 3 anni. Now that we know when to use the presente semplice and how to conjugate regular verbs, let's take a look at some of the irregular ones. Verbs ending in care, gare, so that have a C or a G before are, usually take also an age before the endings of the second person singular and the first person plural, in order to keep the hard sound. So you get io gioco, tu giochi, egli gioca, noi giochiamo, voi giocate, essi giocano. This happens so that you can still get the sound k or g even in the second person singular and the first plural. In fact, without the age, the sound would become sweet, like ch, j. Let's see the verb pagare, to pay. Io pago, tu paghi, egli paga, noi paghiamo, voi pagate, essi pagano. By adding the age, the sound remains the same for all the conjugation. If you want to practice, use these two verbs, cercare and navigare. Just pay attention to verbs ending in iare. If you follow the main rule of cutting out the are, for example in a verb like mangiare, you get the root mangi. If you add the endings, you would have a double I in the second person singular and the first person plural. Remember to keep only one I. Io mangio, tu mangi, egli mangia, noi mangiamo, voi mangiate, essi mangiano. In verbs ending in cere or scere and gere or gere with double G, the sound of C and G changes and becomes hard before the endings of the first person singular and the third person plural, so just be careful for what concerns the pronunciation. So a verb like conoscere sounds like this: io conosco, tu conosci, egli conosce, noi conosciamo, voi conoscete, essi conoscono. Or another verb, correggere. Io correggo, tu correggi, egli corregge, noi correggiamo, voi correggete, essi correggono. Io and essi have a hard sound in conoscere, for example, like sk, so conosco, conoscono, while the others are sweet, like sh. The same happens with verbs like correggere, to correct. In the verb correggere, io and essi have a g, like the word cat, so gatto, a g, a strong sound, while the others have a sweet one, like the g in giorno, day. Try with verbs like piangere or crescere. Another group of semi-irregular verbs belong to the group ending in ire. Some verbs like guarire, pulire, finire, spedire, capire, preferire add isk before the singular endings and the third plural person. Let's take finire and spedire as examples. Io finisco, tu finisci, egli finisce, noi finiamo, voi finite, essi finiscono. Io spedisco, tu spedisci, egli spedisce, noi spediamo, voi spedite, essi spediscono. There is actually no rule to recognize them. Take some time to see how these verbs are built and to take a look at the different sounds, how the vowels are pronounced, and why they are pronounced that way in that case. Give it a try with some of these verbs from the list. It's really a lot for today. It's a matter of practice and sounds. If you practice, you'll be able to recognize the sound and see if the verb is correct or not. Take some verbs and conjugate them, then write them down in the comment if you want to. I'll be happy to reply. Grazie per l'attenzione, al prossimo video, ciao!